Early on, my grandfather had this saying, "Success is like an iceberg, folks only see the tip, not the mountain of ice underneath." I didn't really get it, not until I became that iceberg myself. I'm Ava Bennett, and this is how I went from being the odd one out in my sister's high society world to watching her picture-perfect life unravel, all in one unforgettable evening. I was raised in a modest apartment above our family's Dominican bakery in Chicago's Humboldt Park. By the time I was in third grade, I already knew what sweat equity meant. I was packing pastry boxes and calling customers by name before most kids could multiply. By middle school, I was double-checking our stock and catching the bookkeeping mistakes my uncle missed. Grandpa would shout numbers from the back, waving a syrup-sticky receipt. I'd dash over like I was solving a mystery. "We're overspending on mango puree," I'd point out. "But if we team up with that cafe around the corner," he'd tap my forehead, laughing. That brain's got business wired into it. While other kids were learning to dribble, I was diving into profit margins and dreaming up scalable models. My parents worked nonstop to put me through college. Their sacrifices got me into Northwestern on a scholarship, and I was determined to make it count. In my early 20s, I launched a microloan platform built around data analytics. It took off in immigrant communities fast. By my late 20s, it had grown into a multi-million-dollar venture called Verita Fund. But I didn't flaunt it. I liked staying low profile. That's about the time I crossed paths with Owen. It happened in this tiny second-hand bookshop tucked away off Milwaukee Avenue. I was in my usual weekend get-up, leggings, old college hoodie, browsing finance news on my tablet. Then bam, he knocked over a tower of books. "Oh wow, my bad," he said, reaching down to help. "Don't sweat it," I chuckled. "I'm Ava. Let me make it up to you with a coffee." That coffee turned into lunch, and lunch turned into everything else. Owen wasn't chasing Wall Street dreams. He was a public high school civics teacher, thoughtful, grounded, and passionate about equity. 6 months in, he proposed. I said yes, no hesitation. My parents were thrilled. My sister? Not so much. Bianca and I had always walked different roads. She took the traditional track, the high-end MBA, designer suits, and a power job at one of LA's top firms, Harlan and Rowe. She lived for prestige. And though she loved me in her way, it was clear she didn't think of us as equals. One night over dinner at our parents' place in Silver Lake, she swirled her wine and said, "So, still baking bread and playing with that little app of yours?" I could have told her my little app just inked a long-term deal with a major private equity firm. But I held back. There was something satisfying about being underestimated. "Still doing both," I said, taking a slow sip of espresso. "Well," she smirked, "someone's gotta keep the cookies coming." She didn't stop there. "Not everyone's cut out for boardroom success," she added. Elise, our cousin and resident peacekeeper, jumped in. "Bianca just nailed a major campaign. The CEO even gave her a personal shout-out." What none of them knew. That same firm had been using my company's analytics tools for months, and we were in talks to scale up. "That's awesome," I said honestly. Bianca lit up, thinking she'd scored a win. The same routine played out for a while, her polished jabs, my silent wins, Owen urging me to let it slide. Then came her big news. Bianca was throwing a gala to celebrate her new title. At the kickoff dinner, she turned to me with a smile that could slice glass. "Ava, since you've done event planning and food service before, maybe you could help manage the catering staff?" Bianca asked, her tone sugary sweet. Mom lit up, clapping her hands. "That's perfect. Ava knows how to handle operations." I glanced at Bianca, who was clearly enjoying herself a little too much. I gave her a calm smile. "Sure, I'd love to help," I said evenly. Later that night, Owen pulled me aside, concern etched across his face. "You don't have to do this," he murmured. "We can say you're under the weather or had a last-minute work thing." But I was already 3 steps ahead. "I want to," I replied softly. "Tonight's important for Bianca. Let's make sure it's unforgettable." What no one at that table knew was that earlier that same morning, I got an email that changed everything. The message was from none other than James Harlan, yes, the CEO of Bianca's firm, Harlan & Rowe. He wanted to meet the mysterious founder behind Verita Fund. Me. And as fate would have it, he'd be attending the gala that evening. Everything started falling into place, and for the first time since my sister's endless digs began, I smiled. Not out of politeness. Out of sheer, bubbling anticipation. Bianca had no clue her elegant soiree was about to take a turn. What she thought was a celebration of her promotion was going to become something much bigger. Sometimes, revenge doesn't come in the form of payback, sometimes, it's just letting the truth rise to the surface. And that night? That truth was about to shine. Their house had been completely transformed, it looked like a luxury showroom crossed with a networking expo. Aunt Doreen whispered, so tasteful, so elevated. To me, it looked like Pinterest had a love child with Wall Street. Crystal glasses sparkled on every table. Ice sculptures melted slowly in the LA heat. A harpist plucked away near the koi pond. I couldn't help but wonder if Bianca's event budget had eaten half her raise. Ava, she called out, sweeping into the room like royalty, her dress shimmered under the chandelier light. The caterers are waiting, she said briskly. Please try to keep them organized. Oh, and, her eyes slid over my simple black midi dress. Try to stay in the background. I gave a little nod. Of course, Bianca. Everything will run like clockwork. Owen leaned in and whispered, we could still bounce. I smiled, steady as ever. No need. Everything's unfolding exactly as it should. The kitchen was chaos. Bianca had apparently tossed in some last-minute changes, again. A young server, probably barely out of high school, looked frazzled. Miss Bennett? She asked nervously. Your sister wants champagne passed at exactly 8:15 for her speech, but also tray service throughout, and we're 2 people short. I gave her a confident smile. It's all good. I've managed bakery rush hours in August without air conditioning. We've got this. If you've ever had someone underestimate you, someone who should have been in your corner, you'll want to stick around. Because what happened next didn't just shift the mood in the room. It flipped the whole story. And if you're curious how quiet power speaks volumes when it counts, you'll want to see what comes next. For the next stretch of the evening, I worked side by side with the catering crew. Coordinating the timeline, adjusting plating, making sure champagne flowed smoothly, all while keeping tabs on every new guest walking through the door. Bianca was making her rounds, bouncing from group to group, laughing just a bit too loud and sipping too much sparkling wine. Then I heard it. Did you see Ava? She giggled to a group of sharply dressed execs. My sister, she's helping the catering team. Honestly, it's where she's most comfortable. Poor thing. A few chuckles rippled through the group. Some people just aren't built for this world, she added, throwing in a dramatic shrug. And just like that, Mom, Rosa, chimed in with her soft, ever-sweet voice. We've always tried to make her feel included, Mom was saying, her voice soaked in faux compassion. I mean, that's what families do, right? But considering where she comes from, well, there's only so much we can manage. I walked past them with another tray of hors d'oeuvres, quietly clocking the arrival of several executives from Harlan & Rowe. Just then, my phone buzzed. A message from my CFO lit up the screen, everything signed. We're a go. I let a slow smile tug at the corner of my mouth. Perfect timing. Meanwhile, Bianca, glowing with compliments and cocktails, had moved on to charming another group. When Owen first told me his girlfriend was my sister, I thought he was joking. A baker/up person? She giggled like it was adorable. But as Mom always says, charity begins at home. And Rosa, bless her, jumped in right on cue. We've even been thinking of helping her with a small condo down payment. Something modest, of course. Nothing too close to Westwood Hills. And then, the energy shifted. Like a breeze had swept through the room. James Harlan had arrived. Bianca practically tripped over her stilettos trying to reach him first. Mr. Harlan. What an absolute honor. Dressed in a navy suit that probably cost more than most people's cars, he scanned the space, then locked eyes with me. He paused. There was a flicker of recognition. Bianca's laugh came out tight. "Oh, don't mind her," she chirped. "That's my sister Ava. She's just helping with the catering. Let me show you the marketing pitch I put together." "Actually," James cut in, his eyes still on me. "Isn't that?" I handed off my tray to a nearby server and stepped forward. "Ava, please," Bianca hissed, trying to block my path. "He doesn't need anything to drink, just go back to the good evening, James," I said calmly. "Thank you for coming." His face lit up in instant recognition. "Ms. Bennett," he said, clearly amused. "Didn't expect to find you passing out drinks at your own party." Bianca's voice cracked. "Your party?" James nodded slowly, still smiling. "Yes. Since Verita Fund just secured a majority stake in Harlan and Rowe, I assumed this evening was meant to announce the merger." He turned to me with a dry smile. "Unless you were planning to keep that under wraps a little longer?" Silence. The kind that stretches out and wraps around you like a vacuum. Even the string quartet stopped mid-song. You could literally hear the sound of ice cubes shifting in untouched glasses. Bianca's flute of sparkling wine slipped from her hand, smashing on the marble floor. There has to be some mistake," she stammered. "Ava's a baker. She runs a tiny shop in Eastwood." James chuckled, shaking his head. "Ms. Bennett is the founder and CEO of Verita Fund. As of tonight, she owns 51% of my firm. Which includes your department, by the way." He looked back at me, his eyes bright. "Those algorithmic streamlining recommendations you gave us? Genius. Our tech team is still buzzing." Across the room, Rosa gripped the back of a chair, looking ghostly. "That can't be." "Ava doesn't, she couldn't, but I do," I said, my voice quiet but clear. And in the silence, it echoed like a thunderclap. "Verita Fund has been mine from day one. And as of 15 minutes ago, we officially hold controlling interest in Harlan and Rowe." I turned back to Bianca. "Including the marketing division." Her face had drained of all color. Her lips moved, but no words came out. I stepped a little closer. "All those times you brushed me off," I said, calm and steady. "All those snide remarks, the fake smiles. You treated me like I should be lucky just to orbit your world." Just then, Owen pushed through the frozen crowd, stunned. "Ava, why didn't you tell me? Would it have made a difference?" I asked softly. "Would you have defended me if you'd known I had money?" "Because you didn't when you thought I didn't." He stopped cold, no reply. James cleared his throat. "Well, now that everyone's here, shall we make it official? Verita Fund is now leading Harlan and Rowe." "With pleasure," I said, smiling. Then I turned to Bianca. "I believe you had a speech prepared. Shall I deliver it for you, or would you prefer to do it yourself?" She stood there shaking. Then she spun on her heel and vanished down the hall. Rosa trailed behind, stunned into silence. I plucked a champagne flute off a tray and gave it a gentle tap. "Everyone," I called out, stepping forward with a smile, "if I may have a moment." That moment cracked something open in my family, and trust me, we were only just getting started. Owen had slunk toward the back of the room, looking like he'd just walked through a tornado. Rosa was nowhere to be seen, likely off trying to calm Bianca down. My father, Emilio Bennett, quiet as ever, was standing alone by the bar, staring into an empty glass like it might hold answers. After the official announcement, James Harlan came over to me, a sparkle in his eyes. "That," he said, "was one of the most unforgettable business unveilings I've seen in my career." Then he tilted his head. "But tell me this, why let them believe you were just a baker for so long?" I took a sip, letting his question hang in the air. "Because people show you who they are when they think you're beneath them." He nodded slowly. "Well, their mistake is our gain. I'm looking forward to working with you, for real, this time." As the crowd started to thin and the music softened, Bianca reappeared. Her makeup had been touched up, her expression barely holding together. She marched toward me, eyes blazing. "You embarrassed me," she snapped under her breath. "In front of every single person I've spent years building relationships with." "No, Bianca," I replied evenly. "You did that to yourself. I just didn't step in to protect you from the consequences." "I'm quitting," she fired back. "I refuse to work under you." "That's your call," I said with a shrug. "But before you storm off, you should know this: every firm in the city already knows what went down tonight. And those snide remarks you made about people like me, to your own CEO, no less? That's not going to slide under the radar." Her shoulders slumped ever so slightly. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to grow up," I said simply. "Starting Monday, you'll be working on our new local equity initiative. We're launching support programs for small restaurants and local shops to access real financial tools." She blinked. "Reporting to who?" "To my mom," I replied. "She's still running the bakery. Not because she has to, because she chooses to. She'll be heading the program." Bianca's mouth opened, then shut. She didn't say a word. And just then, Rosa appeared behind her. "Ava, can we please talk about this privately?" she asked, her voice cracking a little. "We're family. We can figure this out." I turned to face her fully. "Family? For the past 3 years, you've had me sit with the servers, cropped me out of photos, and talked about me like I was some kind of burden. When exactly did I become family to you?" Rosa murmured. "We didn't know that you had money." "Exactly," I said. "You didn't know I was wealthy, so you assumed I didn't matter." That's when my dad, quiet, unshakable Emilio, finally stepped forward and set his glass down. Everyone turned. "She's right, Rosa," he said, voice low and steady. "We've treated her terribly." He looked at me then. I sat there, watching, while our values crumbled into vanity, judgment, and pride. "Maybe it took all this to finally wake us up," my dad said quietly. The room was nearly empty now, just family, and the ruins of everything they thought they knew. Owen stepped forward at last. His voice was soft, almost broken. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "I tried to," I said. "More times than you know. But every time you stood by and let your family belittle me, it became clearer. If you couldn't respect me when I was just the woman baking croissants at dawn, then you didn't deserve to know the woman behind the company." "But I love you," he said, desperate now. I shook my head. "Love without respect? That's not love that endures. Every single time you stayed quiet while they treated me like I didn't matter, that was the real story of us." "I can change," he pleaded. "Now that I know," I cut him off, calm and steady. "Now that you know I'm wealthy? That's not growth. That's just survival instinct." I slipped my wedding band off and placed it gently on the edge of the marble table. "I filed for divorce last week. My attorney will be in touch." "Ava, please." I turned to Bianca instead. "I'll be with Harlan and Rose board tomorrow morning. But as for you, Monday, you report to my mom at the bakery. She's old school. Don't be late." Then I turned to Rosa. "The estate looks beautiful tonight. You should enjoy it." Her eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "The bank finalized my purchase this morning," I said. "This place isn't the Bennett estate anymore. It's now the Bennett Foundation for Opportunity, our nonprofit hub for training and supporting Florida's service workers." The look on their faces was absolutely priceless. But I didn't stick around for applause. Outside, the evening air was warm, wrapping around me like a sigh. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "Swing by the bakery. Your dad made your favorite. We'll wait for you." I smiled. Be there in 20 minutes later, I was home. Back where it all began, at my parents' bakery, eating warm empanadas and laughing over the chaos of the night. "People like that," Mom said, shaking her head, "need lessons you can't learn in books." Dad added, "Success without humility? That's like sugar without yeast. Sweet, but it never rises." As I wiped down the counter, "Yes, the CEO of Verita Fund still cleans up after closing," I took a breath and let it all sink in. The little girl who once counted spare change in a jar now manages billions. But that's not what makes me rich. My real wealth It's always been self-respect, integrity, and the strength to walk away from any table where I'm treated like I don't belong. If any part of my story reminded you of your own, if you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or told you didn't measure up, I want to hear from you. Share your journey in the comments. Let's make space for quiet power. And if you believe, like I do, that respect will always matter more than status, subscribe. Stick around. This empire? I built it one brick at a time.